A 9-year-old girl walks past a security camera at exactly 7:42 a.m. For minutes later, she's gone. No screams. No witnesses. No body. Just absence. Her pink backpack is found 2 blocks away, contents scattered across the sidewalk. Notebooks, a purple pencil case, a half-finished drawing of a butterfly. Inside the bag, neatly folded, are her yellow rain boots. The boots she never went anywhere without. But Poppy Jackson? She's nowhere. Not in the alleys. Not in the buildings. Not in the river they dragged for 3 days straight. It's as if the earth opened up and swallowed her whole. Her mother, Diane, calls 911 at 8:17 a.m. The recording is 4 minutes and 32 seconds of pure, guttural terror. You can hear her hyperventilating. You can hear her begging God for answers. The operator asks, "When did you last see your daughter?" Diane sobs, "This morning. 40 minutes ago. She was right here." 40 minutes. That's all it took for a child to vanish from a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. Where curtains twitched at every passing stranger. Where mothers stood on porches watching their kids walk to school. But no one saw Poppy Jackson disappear. For 23 years her case went cold. For 23 years investigators hit dead end after dead end. Until a retired bus driver walked into a police station and said 5 words that changed everything. "I saw her. Every day." Plus, before we go further, where are you watching from right now? Drop your country in the comments. And if a case like this has ever haunted your town, tell us about it. Hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear is darker, stranger, and more disturbing than you can imagine. This is the story of the girl who vanished in 1996 and spent the next 2 decades hiding in plain sight. Poppy Jackson was 9 years old when the world forgot her name. But before that September morning in 1996, she was unforgettable. She had a gap-toothed smile that could light up a room. She wore yellow rain boots every single day, even when it wasn't raining. She drew butterflies obsessively, filling notebook after notebook with wings and antennae, some realistic, some fantastical, all of them beautiful. Her teacher, Mrs. Carolyn Hayes, described her as the kind of child who made you believe in goodness. Her mother, Diane Jackson, was a single mom working 2 jobs. Mornings at a diner, evenings cleaning office buildings. Money was tight but love wasn't. Diane made sure Poppy had everything she needed. School supplies, a warm coat, those ridiculous yellow boots Poppy refused to take off. They lived in a modest row house in East Baltimore, a working-class neighborhood where everyone knew each other's business. It wasn't the safest area, crime rates were high, drug activity was visible, but it was their neighborhood. People looked out for one another. Diane never worried about Poppy walking to school. The route was simple, 4 blocks, straight shot, same path every morning. Poppy knew every face, every storefront, every crack in the sidewalk. The bodega owner, Mr. Rashid, gave her free candy on Fridays. The mailman Terry always waved. Mrs. Granger, an elderly woman who sat on her stoop every morning, called Poppy Sunshine, and told her to stay sweet. Poppy was punctual. She left the house at 7:38 a.m. every morning, arriving at Ralph Waldo Emerson Elementary by 8 a.m. Diane would kiss her forehead, remind her to be good, and watch from the doorway as Poppy skipped down the street, backpack bouncing. It was routine. Safe. Predictable. Until September 14, 1996. That morning started like every other. Diane made Poppy scrambled eggs and toast. Poppy packed her backpack, double-checked her homework, laced up her yellow boots. She hugged her mom tight, tighter than usual, Diane would later recall, though maybe that's just hindsight playing tricks. At 7:38 a.m., Poppy walked out the door. Diane watched her turn the corner onto North Avenue. She never saw her daughter again. By 8:15 a.m. the school called. Poppy didn't show up for attendance. Diane's stomach dropped. She ran the route herself, asking everyone, "Did you see her? Did you see my baby?" Mr. Rashid had seen her walk past the bodega at 7:42 a.m. She'd waved. He'd waved back. Terry the mailman had seen her standing at a bus stop on North Avenue around 7:46 a.m., looking confused, like she was waiting for someone. After that, nothing. Poppy Jackson had vanished somewhere between 7:46 a.m. and 8 a.m., in a 14-minute window that would haunt investigators for over 2 decades. Because here's the thing about disappearances, they're not magic tricks. Someone always sees something. But in Poppy's case, that someone stayed silent for 23 years. Let's walk through that morning minute by minute because the devil, and the answer, is in the details. 7:38 a.m. Poppy Jackson leaves her house wearing jeans, a purple t-shirt, and those unmistakable yellow rain boots. Her backpack is pink with a cartoon cat on it. She's carrying a lunch her mom packed, a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, a juice box. Diane stands in the doorway, watches Poppy turn the corner. Everything is normal. 7:42 a.m. Poppy passes Mr. Rashid's bodega. He's sweeping the sidewalk, sees her coming, waves. She waves back, her gap-toothed smile flashing. He'd later tell police, she looked happy. Not scared, not rushed. Just normal. This is the last confirmed sighting of Poppy on her usual route. 7:46 a.m. Terry, the mailman, is sorting letters 2 blocks off Poppy's normal path. He spots her standing at a bus stop on North Avenue looking confused. He thinks it's odd. Poppy always walks to school, never takes the bus, but he's running late, doesn't stop to ask if she's okay. He waves. She doesn't wave back. Later, Terry would say that moment haunts him every single day. 7:50 a.m. to 8 a.m. No witnesses. No sightings. Poppy should have arrived at school by 8 a.m. at the latest. She doesn't. 8:15 a.m. Emerson Elementary's attendance office calls Diane. Mrs. Jackson, Poppy didn't show up this morning. Is she sick? Diane's blood runs cold. What do you mean she didn't show up? I watched her leave. She hangs up, grabs her keys and runs. 8:20 a.m. to 10 a.m. Diane retraces Poppy's route, knocking on doors, stopping strangers, screaming her daughter's name. Neighbors join her. They search alleys, check abandoned lots, peer into parked cars. Nothing. 10:23 a.m. Diane calls 911 hysterical. The dispatcher tries to calm her down, asks routine questions. Diane can barely breathe. My baby is missing. Someone took my baby. 11 a.m. Police find Poppy's backpack. It's lying on the sidewalk 2 blocks from the bus stop where Terry saw her, contents spilled out like someone dropped it in a hurry. Or like someone dumped it there deliberately. Inside the bag, her notebooks, her pencil case, the butterfly drawing she'd been working on. And those yellow rain boots, neatly folded. Why would Poppy leave her boots behind? She never went anywhere without them. Investigators photograph everything. Dust for prints. Find none. No signs of struggle. No blood. No torn fabric. Just an abandoned backpack and a missing child. 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Baltimore PD launches a full-scale search. Dozens of officers canvass the neighborhood. Bloodhounds are brought in, track Poppy sent from her house to the bus stop on North Avenue. Then the scent just stops. The dogs circle, confused, whining. One handler says it's like she vanished into thin air. Helicopters sweep the area. Divers search the nearby harbor. Volunteers check dumpsters, abandoned buildings, every inch of surrounding blocks. Diane stands in the middle of the street, surrounded by police and neighbors and news cameras, and she screams, "Where is my daughter?" No one has an answer. 8 p.m. Detective Frank Russo, a 22-year veteran of the Baltimore PD, takes lead on the case. He's seen a lot. Murders, assaults, drug wars, but missing children cases hit different. They gnaw at you. He looks at the evidence. The abandoned backpack, the boots, the scent trail that ends at a bus stop. He thinks about Terry's statement. Poppy standing there looking confused. Russo has a gut feeling. Someone picked her up. Someone she trusted. But who? In the first 48 hours, investigators would interview over 200 people. None of them would bring Poppy Jackson home. The first 48 hours after a child goes missing are critical. Statistically, if a child isn't found within that window, the odds of recovery drop dramatically. Everyone knew this. Diane knew this. The police knew this. And the clock was ticking. Day 1, the search. By nightfall on September 14th, over 300 volunteers had joined the search. Neighbors, church groups, strangers who'd seen Poppy's face on the evening news, they came out in droves, flashlights in hand, combing every inch of East Baltimore. They searched parks, vacant lots, rooftops, basements. They knocked on every door, asked every resident the same question. Did you see anything unusual this morning? No one had. Diane walked alongside the searchers, clutching a school photo of Poppy, showing it to anyone who'd look. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. Her eyes were red, swollen, empty. A news reporter stuck a microphone in her face. Mrs. Jackson, what would you say to whoever has your daughter? Diane looked directly into the camera, tears streaming. Please. Please bring her home. She's just a baby. She needs her mama. Please. The clip aired on every local station. It would be replayed for weeks. Day 2, the investigation intensifies. Detective Russo and his team worked around the clock. They re-interviewed everyone from day one, hoping someone remembered a detail they'd missed. Mr. Rashid, the bodega owner, was questioned extensively. Had anyone suspicious been hanging around his store that morning? Any unfamiliar cars? Any strangers asking about kids? Nothing. Terry, the mailman, was brought in for a formal statement. He described seeing Poppy at the bus stop looking out of place. Russo pressed, "Did she look scared? Was anyone with her?" Terry wasn't sure. He'd only glanced over for a second. Russo wanted to scream. A second. That's all it took for a child's life to change forever. The FBI was brought in on day 2. Missing children cases often involve trafficking, abduction for ransom, predators. The feds had resources Baltimore PD didn't. National databases, profilers, advanced forensics. They ran Poppy's case through VICAP Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, looking for similar disappearances. Nothing matched. They analyzed the backpack. No foreign DNA. No fibers. Whoever took Poppy was careful. A profiler suggested they were looking for someone local, someone Poppy knew, someone she'd trust enough to approach. Russo started building a list. Family, friends, neighbors, teachers, coaches, church members. Anyone who had regular contact with Poppy. Every single one of them was interviewed. Every single one of them checked out. Day 3, the vigil. On September 16th, the community held a candlelight vigil outside Emerson Elementary. Hundreds of people showed up, holding candles, singing hymns, praying for Poppy's safe return. Diane stood at the front, barely able to stand. Her sister held her up. A pastor spoke, "We do not lose faith. We believe Poppy will come home." But faith was starting to crack. Whispers spread through the crowd. What if she's already dead? What if we never find her? Russo stood at the back watching. He'd seen this before. The hope, the denial, the slow, crushing realization that miracles don't always happen. But he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He went back to the evidence, staring at the map of Poppy's route, the bus stop where she was last seen. Something didn't add up. Why was she at a bus stop? She always walked to school. Unless she wasn't alone. Unless someone told her to wait there. As days turned into weeks, Poppy Jackson's face became everywhere and nowhere all at once. Her photo was plastered on telephone poles, bus stops, grocery store windows. Local news stations ran daily updates. Still no sign of missing 9-year-old Poppy Jackson. The case became a symbol of every parent's worst nightmare, of a city struggling with crime and poverty, of children who slipped through the cracks. Diane appeared on talk shows, morning news programs, anywhere that would give her airtime. She held up Poppy's picture with shaking hands, her voice breaking. "If you know anything, please come forward. I just want my baby back." Tips poured in. Hundreds of them. A woman in Virginia claimed she saw a girl matching Poppy's description at a rest stop. Police investigated. It wasn't her. A man called in saying he'd seen suspicious activity near an abandoned warehouse. A SWAT team raided it. Found nothing. A psychic contacted the police claiming she'd had a vision. Poppy was near water, trapped, scared. Russo was skeptical but desperate. They searched the harbor again. Still nothing. Every lead was a dead end. The neighborhood changed. Parents stopped letting their kids walk to school alone. Mothers stood on porches, watching, waiting, terrified. Locks were installed. Strangers were eyed with suspicion. Fear became a permanent resident of East Baltimore. Russo worked the case obsessively. He kept Poppy's file on his desk, her photo pinned to his bulletin board. He retraced her route a dozen times, interviewed witnesses again and again, hoping someone would remember something new. But memories fade. Details blur. And time is a cruel thief. By December 1996, the media coverage slowed. Other stories took priority. Poppy's name appeared less frequently in the papers. Diane felt her daughter slipping away, not just physically but from public consciousness. She refused to let that happen. Every year on September 14th, she held a vigil. Every year, fewer people showed up. But Diane never stopped. She kept Poppy's room exactly as it was the day she disappeared. The bed made, the drawings pinned to the walls, the yellow rain boots. Police had returned them after processing, sitting by the door, waiting for feet that would never fill them. Russo visited Diane every few months, updating her on the case. Or rather, the lack of updates. "We haven't given up," he'd say. Diane would nod, but her eyes said what her mouth wouldn't. "Yes, you have." In 2005, Poppy would have turned 18. Diane held a birthday vigil, just her and a handful of neighbors. She brought a cake, lit candles, sang happy birthday to the wind. She whispered, I know you're out there, baby. I know you're alive. Mama's still looking. But deep down, Diane didn't know if she believed that anymore. Hope is a beautiful, terrible thing. It keeps you breathing, but it also keeps you trapped, unable to move forward, unable to let go. For Diane Jackson, hope was both a lifeline and a prison. And for 23 years she lived inside it. By the year 2000, Poppy Jackson's case was officially classified as cold. It wasn't for lack of trying. Russo and his team had chased every lead, interviewed hundreds of people, analyzed every piece of evidence. But the truth, brutal and unforgiving, was that they had nothing. No body. No suspect. No motive. Just a little girl who'd walked out her front door one morning and ceased to exist. The FBI scaled back its involvement. Resources were needed elsewhere. Russo was reassigned to other cases. Fresh homicides, active investigations, crimes that had a chance of being solved. But he kept Poppy's file. Even after he was promoted, even after his caseload doubled, Poppy's folder sat on his desk. He'd open it sometimes late at night, stare at her photo and wonder, "Where are you?" His wife noticed the toll it took. "You can't save everyone, Frank," she'd say gently. "I know," he'd reply. But knowing didn't make it easier. Russo retired in 2015, after 40 years with Baltimore PD. At his retirement party, a colleague joked, "Bet you're glad to finally let go of that Jackson case, huh?" Russo didn't laugh. "I'll never let it go." He kept a copy of the file at home, just in case. Meanwhile, Diane's life became a ghost of what it once was. She still worked, still paid bills, still moved through the motions of living. But she wasn't alive, not really. She moved to a smaller apartment in 2003, but refused to pack up Poppy's things. She brought everything with her, the drawings, the clothes, the books, the yellow boots. She set up Poppy's room exactly as it had been. Sometimes she'd sit in there for hours talking to the walls, telling Poppy about her day, asking her questions she'd never get answers to. Her sister Carol tried to help. "Diane, you need to let go. You need to grieve." "She's not dead," Diane would snap. "I'd feel it if she was dead. A mother knows." But Carol wasn't sure Diane believed that anymore. The vigils continued, but they shrank. By 2010 it was just Diane, Carol, and a few loyal neighbors. By 2015 it was just Diane and Carol. On Poppy's 28th birthday in 2015, Diane sat alone in her apartment, staring at a cake she'd baked. She didn't sing. She didn't light the candles. She just whispered, "Where are you, baby?" The silence was deafening. In 2016, a new detective, Maria Torres, joined Baltimore PD's cold case unit. She was young, ambitious, hungry to make a difference. Her supervisor handed her a stack of old files. "Pick one. See if you can breathe life into it." Torres flipped through unsolved murders, missing persons, decades-old mysteries. She stopped on Poppy Jackson's file. She read the case summary, looked at the photo, those bright eyes, that gap-toothed smile, and felt a pull. "I'll take this one," she said. Her supervisor shrugged. "Good luck." Russo worked that case for years. Never got anywhere. Torres didn't care. She had fresh eyes, new technology, and a stubborn streak that refused to accept unsolvable. She started from scratch, re-interviewed old witnesses, digitized evidence, ran new database searches. Nothing turned up. Months passed. Then a year. Torres hit the same walls Russo had. But she didn't give up. She kept digging, kept searching, kept hoping. And then, on a cold March morning in 2019, an elderly man walked into the precinct and asked to speak to someone about the Jackson girl. Torres happened to be at the front desk. She led him to an interview room, offered him coffee, and asked, "What do you know about Poppy Jackson?" The man's voice was quiet, shaky, but certain. "I saw her. For years. She rode my bus." Torres froze. "What did you just say?" His name was Raymond Kellerman, age 68, retired MTA bus driver. He'd worked Route 47 for 30 years before retiring in 2018. Torres studied him carefully. He looked nervous, guilt-ridden, but not deceptive. "Start from the beginning," she said, pulling out a notepad. Kellerman took a shaky breath. "I drove Route 47 through East Baltimore. Every day, same route, same stops. You see the same faces after a while. Regulars. You get to know them without ever speaking." "Okay," Torres said. "What does this have to do with Poppy Jackson?" Kellerman's hands trembled. "About a year after she went missing, maybe late 1997, I started noticing a girl. She'd get on at the Ashland Avenue stop, always alone, always quiet. She'd sit in the back, never made eye contact, never spoke." Torres leaned forward. "And?" She looked. I don't know, something about her felt off. She was young, but she never smiled. Never looked around like kids do. Just stared out the window. How old? 10, maybe 11 when I first saw her. But I kept seeing her for years. She aged, obviously. By the time I retired, she looked early 30s. Torres's pulse quickened. Did you ever speak to her? No. I thought about it, but... He trailed off, ashamed. She seemed fine, you know? She got on, she got off, she went about her day. I had no reason to think. What changed? Kellerman looked down at his hands. After I retired, I had time to think. Too much time. And one day, I was going through old boxes, found a newspaper clipping from 1996 about the missing Jackson girl. I looked at her photo and his voice cracked. I swear to God it was the same face. The same girl I'd been seeing on my bus for over 20 years. Torres felt her skin prickle. You're sure? I'm not saying I'm 100% certain. But the resemblance, it haunted me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if I'd been driving her around all this time? What if I could have said something, done something? Where did she get off? Same stop every time. Ashland Avenue and Preston Street. Torres grabbed her laptop, pulled up a map. Show me. Kellerman pointed. Right here. Residential neighborhood. She'd get off, walk east, disappear around the corner. Torres ran the address through the system. 1447 Ashland Avenue. Property owned by Leonard and Patricia Greer, ages 61 and 59. No children listed in the household. Torres's mind raced. She pulled up Poppy's missing person file, cross-referenced with the Greers. Nothing. No connection. Clean records. No red flags. But that didn't mean nothing. Did you ever see where she went after she got off the bus? Kellerman shook his head. No. I drove off. I assumed she lived nearby. Did she ever seem afraid? Distressed? No. Just blank. Like she was going through the motions. Torres made a decision. Mr. Kellerman, I need you to look at some photos. Can you do that? Yes. She pulled up surveillance photos from the bus route, old footage she'd requested from MTA months ago while investigating the case. She'd scanned through hours of tapes looking for anything unusual. She showed Kellerman a series of images. Women boarding buses, sitting in seats, exiting at stops. Is any of this her? Kellerman studied each photo carefully. Then he stopped. Pointed. That one. That's her. Torres looked. The image was grainy, dated 2012. A woman, early 20s, petite, brown hair, head down. She was boarding a bus at Ashland Avenue. Torres's heart pounded. She ran facial recognition software, comparing the 2012 image to Poppy Jackson's childhood photo. The program ran for 30 seconds. Then, match probability, 87%. It wasn't definitive, but it was enough. Torres stood. Mr. Kellerman, thank you. You may have just cracked a 23-year-old case. Kellerman looked like he might cry. Is she alive? I don't know yet. But I'm going to find out. Within hours, Torres assembled a team. They ran background checks on the Greers, pulled property records, interviewed neighbors. The neighbors described the couple as quiet, private, religious. They had a daughter, Amy, who they homeschooled. She was shy, rarely seen, but occasionally spotted at the grocery store. Amy didn't exist in any legal database. No birth certificate. No social security number. Torres knew. She fucking knew. She called Russo. We found her. Russo, voice shaking. Are you sure? Not yet. But I will be. The house at 1447 Ashland Avenue looked normal. Two-story brick row house, modest but well-maintained. Flower pots on the porch. American flag by the door. The kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times and never think twice about. But behind that door, a woman who'd been missing for 23 years was living under a stolen name. Torres set up surveillance immediately. Undercover officers positioned in unmarked cars, cameras aimed at entrances, 24-hour monitoring. On day 1 nothing happened. On day 2 at 9:47 a.m., the front door opened. A woman stepped out. Early 30s, petite frame, shoulder-length brown hair, head down, shoulders hunched like she was trying to make herself invisible. She walked 2 blocks to a small grocery store, bought a few items, milk, bread, canned soup, and walked back. 15 minutes total. She didn't look at anyone. Didn't speak to anyone. Torres watched the footage, zoomed in on the woman's face. Even with years of aging, even with the haunted, hollow look in her eyes, Torres saw it. The resemblance was undeniable. She pulled up Poppy Jackson's childhood photo, placed it side by side with the surveillance still. The nose. The shape of the face. The slight widow's peak in the hairline. Torres showed the images to a forensic specialist. Run an age progression comparison. The specialist worked for 3 hours, using software to digitally age Poppy from 9 to 32. When the results came back, Torres felt her breath catch. 98% match. She called Diane Jackson. Mrs. Jackson, I need you to come to the station. Now. What? Did you find something? Just come. Please. Diane arrived 30 minutes later, breathless, terrified. What is it? What did you find? Torres led her to a private room, sat her down gently. Mrs. Jackson, I'm going to show you something. I need you to stay calm. Just show me. Torres pulled up the surveillance footage. This woman was seen leaving a residence in East Baltimore 2 days ago. I need you to tell me if you recognize her. She played the clip. Diane watched, squinting at first, confused. Then her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Mrs. Jackson. That's her. That's my Poppy. Tears streamed down her face. I know my baby. I know her walk, I know her face, that's her. Torres nodded. We're going to bring her home. But I need you to prepare yourself. She's been living under a different name for over 2 decades. She may not remember you. Diane didn't care. I don't care if she remembers me. I just need to hold her. Torres filed for an emergency warrant. A judge signed off within hours. The plan: early morning raid, minimal force, secure the premises, locate the woman, ensure her safety. Torres personally called Russo. Frank, we're moving on the house tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. Russo's voice was thick. I'll be there. That night, Torres couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Poppy, or Amy, as she'd been called for 23 years. What had her life been like? Was she abused? Was she brainwashed? Did she know who she really was? And the Greers, who were they? Why did they take her? What did they want? Torres had seen a lot in her career, but this case was different. This wasn't a murder or a robbery. This was an erasure. A stolen identity. A life lived in captivity, hidden behind closed doors, behind a name that wasn't real. At 5:30 a.m., Torres's alarm went off. She got dressed, strapped on her vest, and drove to the staging area. This was it. After 23 years, Poppy Jackson was coming home. March 22, 2019, 6 a.m. A convoy of police vehicles surrounded 1447 Ashland Avenue. SWAT, FBI, Baltimore PD, all moving in coordinated silence. Torres stood at the front, heart pounding. Russo was beside her, older now, grayer, but his eyes were sharp. Ready? She asked. He nodded. Let's bring her home. The battering ram hit the door once. Twice. It splintered open. Police. Search warrant. Officers flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Leonard Greer was in the kitchen, calmly pouring coffee. He didn't flinch. Didn't run. He simply set the pot down and raised his hands. I've been waiting for this, he said quietly. Patricia Greer was in the living room, sitting on a couch, staring at nothing. She didn't react when officers entered. Didn't speak. Just sat there, hollow-eyed and silent. Where is she? Torres demanded. Leonard nodded toward the stairs. Upstairs. Second door on the left. Torres and 2 officers moved quickly, taking the steps 2 at a time. They reached the door. Knocked. No answer. Torres opened it slowly. The room was small, neat, almost childlike. A twin bed with a floral quilt. A bookshelf filled with old novels. A desk with a lamp. And sitting on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, was the woman from the surveillance footage. She looked up, terrified. It's okay, Torres said softly, holstering her weapon. We're police. You're safe. The woman didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared. Torres approached slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal. My name is Detective Maria Torres. What's your name? The woman's voice was barely a whisper. Amy. Amy, I need to ask you something. Have you ever heard the name Poppy Jackson? The woman's face flickered, confusion, fear, something buried deep struggling to surface. I don't. It's okay. You're safe now. We're going to take you somewhere safe, okay? Slowly the woman nodded. Torres radioed down. We have her. She's safe. Outside, Diane Jackson waited in an unmarked car, gripping her sister's hand so tightly it hurt. When Torres emerged from the house with the woman, Diane's world stopped. That's her, she whispered. That's my baby. She threw open the car door, stumbling forward. Torres gently intercepted. Mrs. Jackson, wait. She's in shock. We need to take her to the hospital first. I need to see her. I know. I promise you will. but right now she needs medical attention. Diane watched as paramedics guided Poppy Amy into an ambulance. Poppy didn't look at her. Didn't even seem to notice her. Diane's knees buckled. Carol caught her. "Why doesn't she know me?" Diane sobbed. "Why doesn't she know me?" Torres crouched beside her. "Mrs. Jackson, she's been conditioned for over 2 decades. It's going to take time." "I don't have time. I've already lost 23 years. Torres, continue. 2302. Had no answer for that. Leonard and Patricia Greer were arrested without incident. Leonard went quietly. Patricia still hadn't spoken a single word. As they were led away in handcuffs, Leonard looked back at the house one last time. He didn't look remorseful. He looked satisfied. Like he'd done something holy. Leonard Greer confessed within hours. Not because he felt guilty, but because he genuinely believed he'd done the right thing. Torres sat across from him in the interrogation room, recorder running, disbelief etched on her face. "Tell me what happened on September 14, 1996. Leonard leaned back, calm, almost serene. "I was driving to work. I saw a little girl standing at a bus stop looking lost. Confused. Alone. That was Poppy Jackson. I didn't know her name then. I just saw a child in need." "So you abducted her?" "No," Leonard said firmly. "I saved her." Torres clenched her jaw. "Explain." "I pulled over, asked if she was okay. She said she was waiting for her mother. That her mother was supposed to pick her up but hadn't come. She looked scared. Vulnerable. So you lied to her." "I told her I was a friend of her mother's. That her mother had sent me to get her. That she was in the hospital and I'd take her there." Torres felt sick. "And she believed you. Children are trusting. Especially when they're scared." "What happened next?" "I drove her to my house. Patricia was waiting. We'd recently lost our daughter. Stillborn. Patricia was devastated. I was devastated. And then this little girl appeared like a gift from God. You kidnapped her. We saved her. We gave her a home, a family, love. You stole her life." Leonard's expression didn't change. "We gave her a better one." Torres wanted to scream. "Did you hurt her? Abuse her?" "Never. We loved her. We raised her. We taught her. We kept her safe." "Safe?" "You imprisoned her. We protected her from a world that would have destroyed her." Torres shook her head. "What did you tell her about her real mother?" "We told her the truth, that her birth mother couldn't take care of her. That she'd been abandoned. That we were her real family now. She was 9 years old. She had memories. Children forget. With time, with love, with repetition, they forget." Torres pulled out a photo of Diane Jackson, holding Poppy's missing poster, tears streaming down her face. She slammed it on the table. "Does this look like a woman who abandoned her child?" Leonard barely glanced at it. "Every parent says they love their child. Not all of them mean it." Torres stood disgusted. "You destroyed 2 lives. Poppy's and her mother's." Leonard smiled faintly. "I gave Poppy a life. A good one. She was happy. She was a prisoner. She was loved." Patricia Greer was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial. Psychiatrists diagnosed her with severe delusional disorder, compounded by unresolved grief from losing her biological daughter. She was placed in a psychiatric facility, where she remains today. Leonard Greer was charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and child endangerment. He showed no remorse during the trial. He testified that he believed he'd been doing God's work. The jury took 2 hours to convict him. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. At sentencing, Diane Jackson was allowed to speak. She stood at the podium, shaking, tears streaming, and looked directly at Leonard. "You stole my daughter's childhood. You stole 23 years of her life. You stole my life. And you sit there and call it love?" Her voice broke. "That wasn't love. That was evil." Leonard didn't react. Diane continued, "I hope every day you spend in that cell you think about what you did. I hope you never know peace." The judge banged the gavel. Leonard Greer was led away. He never looked back. Reuniting with Poppy wasn't like the movies. There was no tearful embrace, no instant recognition, no magical moment where everything clicked back into place. Poppy, who'd lived as Amy for 23 years, was transferred to a trauma rehabilitation center. Psychologists, therapists, specialists worked with her daily. Diane visited every week. At first, Poppy wouldn't speak to her. Wouldn't even look at her. Dr. Ellison, Poppy's lead psychologist, explained it gently. "She's been conditioned to believe the Greers were her real parents. Her brain has built an entire identity around that lie. Undoing it is like unraveling a person's sense of self. But I'm her real mother, Diane pleaded. You are. But to her right now you're a stranger. It took 6 months before Poppy spoke her first full sentence to Diane. Why didn't you come for me? Diane broke down. I tried, baby. I tried every single day. Slowly, painfully, memories began to resurface. Fragments at first: yellow boots, a butterfly drawing, a woman's voice singing a lullaby. Poppy started to remember. But remembering also meant grieving. Grieving the life she could have had. Grieving the childhood stolen from her. Grieving the 23 years she'd never get back. Therapy was brutal. Some days Poppy made progress. Other days she regressed, screaming that she wanted to go home, meaning the Greer's house. Dr. Ellison explained this was trauma bonding. Even though the Greers were her captors, they were also the only family she knew. It's complicated. Diane struggled to understand. But she never gave up. Every week she showed up. Brought photos. Told stories. Sang the lullabies she used to sing when Poppy was small. And slowly Poppy began to heal. By 2021, Poppy was living independently, attending therapy twice a week, and maintaining regular contact with Diane. Their relationship was complicated. Strained. But it was real. Diane described it to a journalist. She's not the little girl I lost. She can't be. But she's my daughter. And I'm learning to love the woman she's become, even though I wasn't there to see her grow up. Poppy, in a rare anonymous interview, said, I'm still figuring out who I am. For 23 years I was Amy. Now I'm supposed to be Poppy. But I don't feel like either. I'm just trying to exist. Raymond Kellerman, the bus driver who finally spoke up, lives with guilt every day. I should have said something sooner, he told a reporter. Maybe I could have saved her years of suffering. But investigators, including Torres and Russo, credit him with solving the case. Without him, Torres said, we never would have found her. He saved her life. Russo, now fully retired, keeps a photo of Poppy on his desk at home. I never thought I'd see this case solved, he admitted. It's bittersweet. We found her. But we can't give her back the time she lost. As of 2024, Poppy Jackson is 37 years old. She lives quietly, working part-time at a local library, attending therapy, slowly rebuilding a life that was stolen from her. She and Diane speak regularly now. Their relationship isn't perfect, how could it be? But it's healing. Diane says, I got my daughter back. Not the way I imagined. Not the little girl I lost. But I got her back. And that's more than most families in my position ever get. Poppy has begun speaking publicly, anonymously, about psychological captivity, trauma recovery, and the long-term effects of abduction. She's become an advocate for missing children, working with organizations that help locate and recover victims. I spent 23 years erased, she said in one interview. I want to make sure no one else does. Her story has led to changes in how law enforcement handles long-term missing persons cases. New protocols for identifying adults who may be living under false identities. Increased funding for cold case units. Poppy's case proved something investigators had long suspected. Some missing children don't vanish into graves or unmarked ditches. Some of them are hidden in plain sight. Living under stolen names. Riding buses. Walking to grocery stores. Existing in the margins, invisible because no one thought to look closely enough. Raymond Kellerman's decision to finally speak up saved Poppy's life. But it also raises a haunting question. How many others are out there? How many Amy's are living quiet, controlled lives, unaware they were once someone else? How many families are still searching, not knowing their missing child is alive just a few miles away? The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates there are currently over 300,000 active missing persons cases in the United States. Some will be found. Some won't. But Poppy's story gives hope. Detective Maria Torres still works cold cases. She keeps Poppy's photo on her desk, a reminder that miracles do happen, just not the way you expect. I think about her every day, Torres said. I'm grateful we found her. But I'm also angry. Angry that she lost 23 years. Angry that the system failed her. Angry that one man's silence could have prevented so much suffering. Frank Russo, the original detective, passed away in 2023. He lived long enough to see Poppy found, long enough to meet her one last time. He told her, I never stopped looking. Poppy, voice shaking, replied, thank you. This case isn't a fairy tale. It's a tragedy with a bittersweet ending. Poppy Jackson was found. But she can never get back the 23 years she lost. Never reclaim the childhood stolen from her. never undo the trauma that shaped her. But she survived. And in surviving, she gave hope to every family still searching. Because sometimes, just sometimes, miracles take decades. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what case should we cover next? Because every story we tell honors a life, a family, and a truth that refused to stay buried. This was the story of Poppy Jackson, the girl who vanished in 1996 and spent 23 years hiding in plain sight.